The C-SPAN networks bring you long-form public affairs programming from the nation's capital and are a public service of your television provider. C-SPAN, created by cable.
Well, I think the president, it's no secret, has made it very clear that he's a pro-life president. He wants to stand up for all Americans, including the unborn. And I think the reinstatement of this policy is not just something that echoes that value, but respects taxpayer funding as well, and ensures that we're standing up not just for life of the unborn, but for also taxpayer funds that are being spent overseas to perform an action that is contrary to the values of this president, and I think continue to further illustrate, not just to the folks here in this country, but around the world, of what a value we place on life. Jennifer Rodriguez. Janet, I'm sorry.
Thank you. What did Mr. Curtis mean when he says that he would work through Congress to get a special something, we don't know what it is, for DACA recipients? And when can we expect that to happen? And also, when can we expect the White House Spanish side to be back up?
Okay, two questions. Let me start with the latter first. As you know, we hit the ground running on day one. There was a lot to do, and we had done a lot of work on the website to make sure that we were prepared to get as much information up as fast as possible. We are continuing to build out the website, both in the issue areas, and then that area. But we've got the IT folks working overtime right now to continue to get all of that up to speed. And trust me, it's just going to take a little bit more time, but we're working piece by piece to get that done. On the DACA piece, I think the president's been clear that he was going to prioritize the areas of dealing with the immigration system, both building the wall and making sure that we address people who are in this country illegally. First and foremost, the president's been very, very clear that we need to direct agencies to focus on those who are in this country illegally and have a record a criminal record or pose a threat to the American people. That's where the priority is going to be, and then we're going to continue to work through the entire number of folks that are here illegally. But right now, the clear focus is on that.
Sean?
Blake Berman, Fox Business.
Hey, Sean, I want to ask you two questions. Back right. Two questions, money related. The president campaigned on the corporate tax cut rate of 15%. And today, when he met with the business leaders, he had mentioned that the tax rate would drop to somewhere between 15 to 20%. Is he moving the goalpost there in any way? And my second question is on government spending. There have been reports that you might be looking at $10 trillion over the course of 10 years. Is that accurate? And would you be willing to wrap up entitlements to get there?
Well, I think first, I'll take the other one first on entitlements or on spending. Look, I think you saw this with the hiring freeze. There's been, frankly, to some degree, a lack of respect for taxpayer dollars in this town for a long time. And I think what the president's showing through the hiring freeze, first and foremost today, is that we've got to respect the American taxpayer. They're sending us a ton of money. They're working real hard. Some people are working 2, 3 jobs just to get by. And to see money get wasted in Washington on a job that is duplicative is insulting to the hard work that they do to pay their taxes. And I think that comes into your question in overall spending as well. We've got to look at how we're spending the American people's tax money. And so what the work that the landing teams have been doing is going into these agencies and departments and talking about ways that we can create greater efficiencies, eliminate duplicity, and maximize the tax dollar. So it's more a question instead of just cutting. It's about how do we spend and respect the American taxpayer dollar more than anyone, more going forward. April Ryan.
That 15 to 20%, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Look, the president's a very successful businessman and negotiator. He's going to sit down and work with Congress to get the best deal possible for American businesses so that they can hire more people and we can expand and we can grow the economy. So he's going to work with Congress on that rate, but he understands better than anybody how to negotiate a great deal. And right now he's going to negotiate the best deal on behalf of the American worker and on behalf of the American businesses that are hiring them. That was a lot of the focus that went on today, talking to these companies. And it was interesting. The meeting was only supposed to last an hour. It overflowed another hour in the Oval Office. And he kept asking them, what ideas do you have to grow this economy? What is preventing you from hiring people? What regulations are stopping you from conducting more business? What are the ways that we can give you more market access into other countries around the globe? And I think that's what his focus is going to continue to be, is how do we create a tax and regulatory environment that grows the economy and benefits the American worker. So it's not just about creating more jobs, but it's also about lifting up those jobs through higher wages. April Ryan.
Sean, I have a couple of questions, if you allow me to take them one at
I
a
will.
time. Elijah Cummings, Maryland Congressman, Democratic Maryland Congressman, confirmed that President Donald Trump talked to him at the luncheon about the high price of prescription drugs. When is this meeting and going to be set, or is it coming up soon? And will the president be meeting with the full body of the Congressional Black Caucus as well as the Hispanic Caucus on issues related to those communities?
Okay, let's take one at a time. I'm not aware of the conversation. I'm sure you've heard the president the last couple of weeks talk about the price of pharmaceutical drugs and the need to get those prices down and bring manufacturing back in the pharmaceutical industry to benefit the country. So it's an issue that's he's going to continue to work on. He understands as we reform health care, as we repeal and replace Obamacare, the getting a hold of the cost of prescription drugs to give more people access to them, but also to allow greater access in healthcare, greater plans in healthcare. That's going to be a key part of. So he's going to, that's going to happen. I think, look, you're seeing with respect to the other meetings, it's day one, working day one here. He's going to start with the leadership. He's going to have a great conversation with them. But then I think you're going to see a variety of meetings, the Congressional Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, small groups of meetings. He's someone who really enjoys that kind of conversation. I think you're going to see a lot of meetings occur, like the ones that you did today, the business leaders coming in, these union workers. And it's interesting. The president was asking these folks today, how many of you have been in the Oval Office? 3 of them raised their hand. We talked to some of these union leaders, and we hear, we didn't get a lot of attention. And here we are on working day one, and you've got the president reaching out to some of America's best business leaders, and then some of the union workers and line workers, and bringing them in and saying, I want to listen to what's going on in your life. What can we be doing to help you? And I think that you're going to see a lot more of that, a listening president who's engaged in trying to figure out what policies and actions that he can take, that this government can take, that he can work with Congress to make people's lives better, to make their security better, to make their economic security better. But you're going to see a lot of that. That's who he is. That's what he did during the transition, and I think that's what he's going to do going forward. He appreciates the ideas and opinions that come through the Oval Office or in small groups, where he gets to share their perspective or their ideas or their opinions. I think that's what he's going to continue to do later this afternoon.
Thank you. I want to go. I'm not
I'm sorry,
finished.
April?
I'm sorry. I want to go back to what the gentleman said about the mandate, the New York Post gentleman. He said something about the Obamacare now and the mandate. With the numbers that you talked about, and it's been in the news from the inauguration day and the numbers Saturday, do you believe that you have the mandate to be able to force through what you had talked about, replacing portions of Obamacare that really subsidize the whole piece of it to help low-income people get health care?
Well, I think what we have is a mandate to make health care more accessible and lower cost. That's what the American people were promised under Obamacare. And I think it's not a question about a mandate, and it's also not about forcing anything. It's about what's doing the right thing. It's about providing people what they've been promised, which is you go around this country and you look market after market, they're down to one plan. That's not what the American people were promised. Not only that, but in many cases you're seeing the rates go up 10, 15, 20, 30, 50%. That's not what they were promised either. And so I think what the president's doing, and it's not just, I think he's gotten bipartisan support for this, to work with Congress and to take executive action where necessary, to implement a health care system that provides more people health care, truly allows them to keep the doctor and plan that they're signing up for, lowers cost, creates more competition. So do I think he has a mandate? Sure. But it's not on this issue. I think that all leaders have a mandate from the American people to fix this system and make it better. Julie Pace.
I've got 2 foreign policy topics I want to get to. There's some discrepancy between what the Russians are saying and what the Pentagon is saying in terms of some potential joint action. Can you clarify that? And generally, is the president open to joint action in Syria with the Russians?
On that instance, I know it's still developing, and I would refer you back to the Department of Defense. I know that they're currently monitoring this, and I would refer you back to them on that. And I think that the president has been very clear that he's going to work with any country that shares our interest in defeating ISIS, not just on the national security front, but on the economic front. If we can work with someone to create greater market access and spur economic growth and allow U.S. small businesses and companies to...
But just on this idea of doing joint military actions with Russia and Syria.
I think if there's a way that we can combat ISIS with any country, whether it's Russia or anyone else, and we have a shared national interest in that, sure, we'll take it.
And then the second thing is when he was